What's up, guys? This is the Jose Show. Happy Tuesday. Now, let's get into the hot topics. Now, let's talk about George Santos. So, George Santos says he's taken inventory of his life after a nearly 6-week stint in solitary, and he's got a new mission after President Trump commuted his sentence and set him free. So, the former New York congressman joined TMZ Live just yesterday, and he basically spilled the tea on how things went over in prison and about his past mistakes and so forth. Well, Santos says he's embarrassed by the lies he told and his own duplicitous nature, and he watched his whole life like a movie in his own head, running through each and every mistake during this time. Santos says he fell back on his own religion, and he thinks he's square with the big guy upstairs now. Okay, so that said, Santos isn't turning the other cheek to unfair treatment he feels he suffered at Federal Correctional Institution Ferguson in New Jersey, because he claims the prison's warden had it out for him, bringing up an old unsubstantiated death threat in order to justify his time in the SHU. So Santos also claims he wasn't allowed access to his medication, and he alleged FCI Ferguson is full of black mold, expired food, and more. Alright, so of course, George got out of prison Friday, and he promises he never saw it coming, only learning from a TV news program that he was getting out of the big house. President Trump never called or even indicated he was considering a commutation of his sentence. Okay, so Santos says it takes a village, and he highlights the advocacy of both his friends in Congress like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Tim Burchett, and his many fans online for ultimately helping spring him. Okay, so remember, Santos was sentenced to 87 months in prison, just over 7 years, after pleading guilty to wire fraud and identity theft charges in May. He surrendered in July and spent a little more than 3 months in custody before his sentence was commuted. This is really insane, ladies and gentlemen, that this guy got pardoned by Trump, because this just comes to show that Trump ends up pardoning all of the frauds that are just like him. Okay, and let's remember that Trump is the same person that got to be pardoning Todd and Julie Chrisley last year, I believe it was, or I believe this past year, like I believe on a January or February or March. And Todd and Julie Chrisley, by the way, got convicted of tax fraud, and they were supposed to be in prison for up to 12 to 14 years. But see, the thing is that Trump likes to be pardoning all of these frauds just like him, because of the fact that he feels like all of these fraudulent people aren't really fraudulent people. He feels like these people are just people that are good people, that are just, following the law, that are just being themselves, that are just, innocent people after all. But honestly, I don't think that there's anything innocent nor anything good about the fact that you are committing fraud. Fraud is evil. Fraud is bad. Fraud is not acceptable here in the United States of America. And that is something that the president should be accepting for once and for all. But unfortunately, when Trump is doing all of these things and pardoning all of these fraudulent people like George Santos and Todd and Julie Chrisley and so forth, he basically is giving our own country a whole bad image, and he's definitely getting our own damn country into a whole damn bad direction, because unfortunately, the more that we are pardoning frauds, the more fraudulent and corrupt things are going to be happening to our country, and it's sad and it's scary. But of course, Trump does not want to be accepting any of those things at all. And you know what? At this point, it's going to be encouraging a lot of other people out there, especially people in office, to be committing a bunch of fraudulent things, because of the fact that they are going to feel so confident to the fact that they are going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to be doing this fraudulent thing because at least Trump is going to be pardoning me. At least it's going to be perfectly fine, and this and that. It's just so darn wrong. You know what? I personally think that George Santos should still stay in prison for what he did, because I don't think that it was perfectly fine, especially for him to be committing wire fraud and to be committing identity theft after all, because what he just did was he basically got to be spending money, I believe, or committing just some type of fraud, which to me is very evil. It's very awful. It's very awful in so many ways that, all of this money that was being involved in all of this whole entire case with this horrible man, George Santos, really is money that, hardworking people get to be earning by a day by day basis. And that's something that unfortunately Trump does not understand at all. I really do hope in one day, man, that, Trump gets to be held accountable for what he just did. I hope that George Santos gets to be back in prison. I hope that all of the frauds like Todd and Julie Chrisley get to be back in prison, because this is just not it, ladies and gentlemen. This is just not it. Okay, so anywho, please, justice for USA, justice for the United States of America, and that's all I have to say about this. All right, now on to the next topic. So Aussie food influencer Stacey Hatfield's home birth turned tragic. So she lost her life after a rare devastating complication. Stacey's husband, Nathan Warnicki, broke the heartbreaking news on Instagram Sunday, revealing she passed on September 29 while giving birth to their first child, Axel, who thankfully made it. Okay, so Nathan said Stacey was rushed to the hospital, and while the staff did everything they could, she sadly passed. So he went on with the long tribute, calling her his soulmate and best friend. He also shared how much she dreamed of being a mom, saying it was her biggest goal in life and she got to do it her way. So the Melbourne-based wellness influencer and nutritionist founded the healthy recipe site Natural Spoonfuls after dealing with her own health struggles. Okay, so she was only 30 years old, by the way. Wow, this is very sad that Stacey Hatfield passed away after giving birth. Oh my God. This is just so darn sad in all levels, because, I mean, when you are giving life, you're supposed to be there. And also, you're supposed to be there, especially for your own child. And unfortunately, she's not there for her child, and she wasn't there for her child the moment that she was giving birth. I think that this poor child is going to be suffering throughout his or her whole entire life, because this baby is going to be needing so much of their mom. Okay, and I mean, I don't even want to imagine what this baby is going to be going through, and I don't even want to imagine just how much this baby is wondering on where their mom is at and so forth. I really think that it's really sad that, unfortunately there wasn't that much care and there wasn't really that much attention towards this poor girl when she was giving birth. And I feel like this girl should have gone to the hospital immediately, even before she was giving birth, because I believe that if she would have gone to the hospital, none of this would have happened and she would have been alive still. Okay, and she was only 30 years old, to make things even more insane. 30 years old. Okay, and I believe, in my opinion, that this girl is, somebody that, she was, spreading so much light on TikTok or on Instagram. And she was, basically somebody that wanted to spread joy and that wanted to, help a community out. And she was somebody that, was trying to spread positive messages all over social media in order to really be, that type of person that is really giving so much light to everybody, especially to people that have been going through so much in life. And she also was, very hopeful and very happy about the fact that she was going to be a mom, and that she was going to be, having a child in her hands and so forth. And maybe she was happy about the fact that her own child was maybe going to be a part of her own social media journey as an influencer, and that her own child was going to be an influencer as her and so forth, maybe, and a bunch of other things. And unfortunately, she is not alive anymore to be recounting any of those things. And you know what? I feel so bad in all levels about this. But unfortunately, it's just one of those things that in life, a bunch of sudden unexpected things happen. Oh my God, but may this girl rest in peace, Stacey Hatfield. All right, now on to the next topic. So Nicki Minaj apparently is very mad at the TMZ team. So Nicki Minaj had a request to tell the folks at TMZ. Eat my ass. Okay, so Harvey, Charles, and the gang were doing their daily live stream, which gets edited for the TMZ Live TV show, by the way, when a super angry Nicki was lobbing a flurry of tweets to their way. So it seems she was upset that TMZ was reporting how her feud with Cardi has reached a new low, with both of them hurling hurtful comments about their kids. Okay, so Nicki told Harvey, and these are her words: "The Rasta, that our time is up." Well, that their time is up. And there's a lot more. So, anyways, TMZ graciously invited Nicki to join their live stream and air her feelings, but she declined in an extremely non-subtle way. Okay, so anyways, this is very insane, man, that Nicki Minaj went off on poor Harvey Levin and on poor Charles and on the rest of the team of TMZ, because these people at TMZ are simply doing their job into informing on what's going on. And yes, they are very honest on the things that they are talking about, but they never go far enough to be attacking and to be so bad and evil to anybody that they're talking about, okay? And by the way, it's their job to be talking about what they are informing. It's their job to be honest. So I believe that Nicki Minaj here went a bit too far into criticizing and into being so mean towards the people over at TMZ. I believe that Nicki Minaj should be the one apologizing to poor Harvey Levin and to Charles and to the rest of the TMZ team. Okay, and I believe that the reason to why Nicki Minaj went off on all of these people on TMZ is because Nicki Minaj has been so upset about the fact that she's been beefing with Cardi, and she's been so upset about the fact that she's been beefing with SZA as well. And I believe that, all of that anger really, triggers somebody to be going off on other things and on other people, which to me is very unfair. So I think that Nicki Minaj should just take a deep breath. She should just leave the spotlight for a little bit, or maybe she should just leave social media for a little bit, and she should just, take some time to relax in order to really reset, so that way she will stop being so explosive on other people and on other things and so forth, so that way she can actually be the Nicki Minaj that we once knew. She can actually be herself, okay? But anyways, I cannot believe that Nicki Minaj really went this low, though, and to be attacking the poor people at TMZ. Like, that is just way too far. That is just way too insane. Okay, but anyways, Nicki Minaj, girl, I believe that if this is really the way that you want to be promoting your new album, which is going to be out on March of next year, then guess what? I believe that that is a really bad idea, because I don't think that anybody is going to be buying an album from somebody that is attacking TMZ and that is attacking other people and so forth, and that is just going on and that wants clickbait and so forth. People want to be buying an album from somebody that, is hardworking, that is, basically very dedicated to their fans, very dedicated to their music, very dedicated to their lyrics and so forth, because that at the end of the day is what's very valid in the music industry. Yes, of course, drama really buys music, drama really buys the attention and so forth, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, we as people, we are sick and tired of hearing a bunch of the beef that is going on in between you and Cardi, and that is going on in between you and TMZ now, and you and SZA, and you and God knows who else, because we are just wanting to see a bunch of peace now, especially in between women in the music industry, where women should actually be uplifting one another. They shouldn't be attacking one another at all. Okay, now if that is the example that you want to be setting to your fans, Nicki, then you know what, that is a horrible example. That is a horrible way to be showing your own fans that music artists should be behaving. Okay, so anywho, Nicki, relax, and that is all I have to say. Okay, now on to the next topic. So let's talk about Doechii. So Doechii went on for a wild ride, actually more like a crashing landing, because apparently Doechii was belting out Denali is a River at her Madison Square Garden show just yesterday when she strutted up to the slide on stage, but her graceful ride down went sideways when her heel snagged. Okay, so apparently it's comedy gold. She flips onto her belly mid-slide with her lingerie-clad booty stealing the spotlight. So stuff like this is par for the course with live concerts, and Doechii didn't miss a beat. Total good sport, and she laughed it off and kept the show rolling. Okay, so anyways, This is really insane that Doechii ended up falling and that she ended up slipping and sliding, because, she could have easily gotten hurt and she could have easily ended up at the freaking hospital or something, but good thing that she is okay. This just comes to show that when women are working way too hard in the music business, they end up getting into these accidents. And I mean, I'm not trying to say that working too hard is a bad thing, but what I'm trying to say is that you need to just be careful when you're working hard, and that is all I have to say. Okay, now Doechii, you are an amazing performer. You are an amazing singer. You really are somebody that is giving out the positive encouragement to all of your fans out there with your performances. You're really that somebody that really cares so much about your own career, and that is something to applaud for. Okay, but I just feel like, when you are performing, just make sure that you are really, making sure that you aren't tripping, you aren't sliding, you aren't, doing things that really look way too wild, because of the fact that unfortunately stuff like this can happen when you are slipping and sliding and you're falling, and you can end up getting hurt. Okay, and what I really like about you, Doechii, though, is that you really were pretending that nothing ever happened after the whole entire situation happened. I mean, you just kept on going like the champ that you are. You kept on being you, and you did not stop at all, and that right there is goals. Okay, I mean, it would have been bad if you would have given up and you would have been like, oh well, oh no, I'm out, just like what Brandy did towards Monica a few nights ago in the concert, when she decided to leave mid-performance because of the fact that there was technical difficulties and so forth. I mean, it's a little bit of a different story, because I mean, what happened with Brandy was a technical situation, but yet again, I believe that she should have not given up, and she should have still stayed on that stage, period. Okay, and I'm glad that you still stood on that stage, Doechii. Okay, but anywho, I really hope that this does not happen again. I really hope that you really get to, be careful, especially, and that you definitely get to, make sure that everything on the stage is also well put, in order for you to be careful as well, because sometimes in that stage, I mean, there's some things that can make you trip and fall, anywho, so that's another thing. But anywho, Doechii, you just keep on being you. We love you. All right. But anywho, that is it for today's show, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's lovely episode of The Jose Show. Till next time, and peace.